Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's live market update. Delighted to see you all here today. Hope you're good. Hope you're well on this Thursday. Uh, as I said, it's great to see you here. Hope your week's been good so far and what's been an interesting few days on markets. We'll unpick it all. We'll see if we can find a chart or two of interest as well along the way. So, as always, we're going to put up this important message just to remind you that this is for educational purposes only. Please make sure you do your own due diligence on anything you see or hear. Make sure you follow trading plans and, of course, manage risk on every trading action consistent with your own personal trading objectives and financial situation. Right, let's get into the headlines for today. And of course, first, let's look at the overnight action. And we saw US equities mixed overnight. US government shutdown continues, but really it was a little bit of doubt cast by the Fed chairman subsequent to the rate cut that they gave us last night. Um, there was expectation, or there is expectation, that a rate cut will come along in December. I'm just going to quickly check out what the current percentage of that is. Um, it was almost a sure thing, and it's still pretty positive. There's still a sort of two-thirds chance um, that we will get a rate cut, but that's obviously now not quite as certain as it perhaps was before that press conference. Uh, there is also some US-China talks, which are scheduled for today and potentially into tomorrow as Trump continues his tour of Asia, meets with President Xi, and of course, one hopes that there'll be some resolution of what's been a sort of tumultuous sort of 2 or 3 weeks in that particular relationship. US futures are mildly positive so far today, but only just over neutral when last I looked. Asian markets are soft, following that sort of tepid US lead. ASX is down around about 0.25%, and the European futures are pointing to a cautiously positive open at this stage. So quite a mixed, uncertain day at this stage. But of course, any news that comes out of Asia um, may well alter that sentiment. We did see, on light of the Fed chair's comments, we did see the US dollar index move to the upside. Gold was weak again, um, though it may consolidate. Is the thinking um, after last week's pullback, but that strength in the USD just pulled it down after a otherwise positive day. Copper looking as though it may test resistance, and oil has pulled back as well. Bitcoin soft again after failing a test of 120,000 earlier in the week. Today we've got the BLJ in action. Now we've also got the US PCE data tomorrow. Be interesting to see how that comes in. Obviously, with the Fed chair casting a little bit of doubt on rate cuts in December, or suggesting it may be not a gimme, then we could see that PCE number having more importance than perhaps it otherwise might. So that's really where we're at with everything for right now. Uh, and I'm just going to check in whether we can get a handle on anything. Which is it looks as though we're not going to get a. Oh, very well. Just trying to get up some internet for you. We can certainly have a look at the futures. Let's see if that works. Does it come up? No, it doesn't look as though it is. Apologies for that. I'm not sure why it's not coming up today. It's one of those things that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. Let's just flick it another chart and see if that helps. No, it's not going to. It doesn't look as though it's going to happen for us today, which is. Oh, yeah, there we go. We've got there. So here we go. Here's the US futures you can see on your screen now. You can see they're slightly to the upside. The Russell is outperforming. As I said, those European futures have just crept up where than the, to with slightly more positivity than they were when I looked a few minutes ago. But you can see there it is relatively positive. Here's where we finished last night, so you can see it was really quite tepid. Nvidia had a very good session, but that was pre-market planned in. Here's the Fed target rate probabilities for that December meeting. You can see it's around about that 68% level. And if we quickly look at what Asia's doing, Hang Seng started the day well, but outside of that, it's a little soft with the Nikkei and the ASX both around about a 1/4% to the downside. Uh, we've got AI reforms in South Korea as well. That market's doing well. Um, so, and let's just quickly, as we can, have a look at Forex Factory. Oh dear me. Okay, it's a note on Trump ex uh, extolling the virtues of nuclear weapons. There's that 1/4% drop in the US rate. We're still waiting, of course, for the BOJ. That, as I said, is pretty key today. Um, we've got also the main refinancing rate coming out of the Eurozone, expected to stay static. And then, as I said, tomorrow, uh, we've got actually quite a busy day tomorrow. We've got the PCE data, which is due. Actually, it's a Chicago PMI is there. PCE data. Remember, we've got a time shift tomorrow. Sorry, time shift over the weekend in the US. We've also got Chinese PMI data coming out tomorrow as well. That's going to be quite important. And Canadian GDP. I was sure it was PCE data. Watch out for that Chicago PMI. That's going to be important. Right. Okay. Let's check out some charts. Let's start with Bitcoin. You can see here, as we said, Bitcoin was ramping up this week. Looked as though it was going to head back towards this 120,000, but over the last three trading sessions since we met on Monday, we gave up all of the gains on Monday. When we met on Monday, it was near that 117. Looked as though it was almost unstoppable, and then we've got that pullback down to around about 109. Just want to make sure. Oh, let me just pop the chart up so you can see it in all its glory. There you go. So there we go. So we're watching this sort of 109,500 level has possibly been interesting. I'll probably even put that down to 109. If we breach that, maybe this 106,500 is under pressure again. So this could be a key point. It was tested yesterday, but managed to recover. If we see what's happening in Asia, you can see certainly the buyers are not in control at this stage. Looking at the Nasdaq, um, that slight uptick in the Nasdaq futures this morning has continued to push the Nasdaq to all-time highs, and one of the major reasons behind that, if we just quickly flick over to Nvidia, which I talked about on Inner Circle, has been a chart of the day, and that's why. So we had that big move up up and over that 200 level after breaching 193 resistance. We're sort of holding an extended hours trading around that level, haven't really pushed on since then. But certainly, Trump's already been extolling the virtues of Nvidia in Asia. So that's all very interesting. The US dollar index was the other chart I've noticed. You can see there we've got a tick upwards, and of course, this has impacted, as I said, on gold. We have got a bounce to the upside today, but you can see yesterday's price action really dropped off. We're looking fairly positive for most of the session, flattened off at the beginning of the US session, and then dropped off on the back of that press conference by the Fed chairman there to come back down and test 3920. Um, so after being over 4,000, it gave up around about 100 points, sorry, $100 in the US session. But you can see there the bounce in Asia again. So there seems to be a bit of a reluctance for right now to push it beneath that, but we shall see how that travels. Copper is testing this resistance, failed to hold it yesterday. 523 is the level of interest. But again, you can see once the Fed chair was doing his thing, and doubts were put on rate in December, you can see that copper dropped off after hitting highs that haven't been seen since this major drop uh, that was pre the imposition of tariffs on at the back end of July. Of course, 50% tariffs came on copper imports into the US. And oil is looking really ordinary again. Really strong week last week. This week it paused just underneath 62.30, and you can see there it's dropped off a little. Doesn't look as though it wants to drop off anymore for right now, but a test of this key level at around about 57.27, or even this 4-year low at 56.68 would be on the card if we get continued selling. At this stage, we're sort of sticky around $60, so a nice round number for the markets to hold on to for right now. Moving into the Forex world, um, if we see here that there's not a lot of trending going on for right now, possibly a little bit into the in the Aussie Kiwi. Here's the GB pound Aussie, which was looking really good once it breached this level yesterday, um, but failed to hold it. If we look at the Aussie Kiwi, the Aussie on the back of that sort of stronger than expected CPI yesterday is looking strong again. You can see it had a strong day yesterday before that Fed induced drop. But you can see again the buyers are back in this morning. It could be an interesting move here if it breaches 65.92 on the Aussie US. Possible move up of around about 20 pips there, so that's worth keeping an eye on. The Aussie Kiwi we've already referenced, but that looks sort of range bound at the moment. And the Aussie Swissy is probably, the Aussie crosses is probably the one that shows the most promise. We can see that on the hourly chart. Uh, Potential retest of this level here from the daily chart of around about 52.93. Um, so retest of that level there, and that's around about a 25 to 30 pip move up, which is significant for this pair on the hourly chart. It would be 2.5 times ATR to the upside. An obvious place to place a stop should we get a trend continuation at this stage. It looks in the balance. Let's just have a quick look back. See very little pure red or pure green on the scanner. US yen is probably the yen crosses are always worth a look for the simple reason. For the simple reason we have that BOJ action, sure you'd be brave to get into this for right now. Yeah, there you see it on the 4-hourly chart. There's a couple of key levels here. Watch sort of this 153.20 level to the upside, which was tested during the course of yesterday. Let me just, there we go, got pretty close to that before dropping back off. So now we're sort of sitting mid-range. A move either side of these two key levels here would be interesting. There's around about 130 pips between the top and bottom of this level. There's a potential short-term opportunity on a breach of maybe 152.40. I would say that that's probably a high probability trade down to around about 152, which is around about this level here. So the two charts of the day in terms of the FX would be the potential Aussie yen short on a breach of 152.40. Again, being patient because we could just see a bounce off that. Probably a safer pair to keep an eye on would be the Aussie Swissy, because obviously that's influenced less by anything that the BOJ should announce over the coming hours. So just be hyper cautious with any yen crosses at this stage. If we move to the ASX, We're seeing lithium stocks doing very well again. Um, we've kept an eye on a few uh, over the last few weeks. You can see here with Liontown, for a slightly kind of template on that. But we've had a support on it, which is previous resistance here and here, up just over $1. Nice bounce off that in today's trading. Possible move up to retest this high. We can also see mineral resources, very similar story with that, except a more technically convincing move today, simply because this is uh, essentially a breach of a resistance level, which was tested twice here at 45.18, trading today at 47. Really nice gap to the upside. And of course, the other major lithium player that we keep an eye on is PLS, and that's looking quite attractive as well from a bull's point of view. There's possibly a key level here at around about 327. To put this into context, this is why this level is important. You can see back here in November last year and again in September last year, this proved to be resistance and subsequently tailed off and moved and continued to sell off, in fact, all the way down to 123. Quite a staggering drop. So this move up in PLS since June 2025 has been fairly spectacular as lithium has gained a bit of traction. If we should get a move over this key level, then maybe a move up to around about 350, 360. That looks to be quite a lot of price consolidation around that area. That's possible. But at this stage, um, worthwhile waiting for a potential breach of this level here. Perhaps the high on this candle here was around about 331, so it makes sense just to get some clearance over that to sort of suggest the buyers are really back in control. Let's see, maybe just another pause around this level, and then should we do so, and the buying momentum continues, we may see an 8.5% move up to the upside. But of course, until we do get clearance, it could equally come down from there. So always, as always, it's worthwhile being patient. In terms of the rare earths picture, that's going to be impacted potentially by what happens in China. Both Iluka and LYC have done very well on the back of essentially China restricting rare earths exports to the US. So we shall see what happens there. Um, Also worth, if you like something different, we talked about Domino's Pizza before. We said that if we get a breach, we liked it at this level. It had this really big candle to the upside, and we did reference last week that if we did breach this level here, then we could potentially close the gap. That's exactly what it's doing. And you can see the moves up here, possibly influenced by some US earnings coming out. IEL, another one that we sort of liked at one stage when it was shifting up. This was an earnings bump to the upside here. Then we got a little pullback. But now to close the gap, now we're sort of consolidating underneath 586. A breach of that could suggest the buyers are back in control. Possibly a little bit of institutional accumulation here in this range, but a potential move up to around about 628. Maybe on the cards with that. It's not jumping up and down and saying buy me at this stage, but again, worthwhile keeping on your radar perhaps. And Megaport, another one that we've sort of fairly recently referenced in the network space. This sort of tech company. I would be patient with this. I'd like to see it over that peak rather than trying to preempt it. And again, that level looks as though it's been resistance now. Uh, this will be the third try of that level, so a breach of that may be technically significant. So, what what to suggest? I just want to have a quick look at coal stocks again. What's WHC doing on 2.5% today? Yeah, I thought that might be good. So you can see here, we're retesting this level here. This has been resistance. It's done 1, 2, 3 attempts previously. Lost retracement, saw some more buying come in and a retest today. 724 looks like a level of interest. Put this on a weekly chart again. You can go all the way back 12 months to see when it last played with this level before this recent before these recent attempts moved through that. Uh, it's about 4% or so, so it's not exactly earth-shattering in terms of return. It may be prudent to wait for other potential opportunities. Platinum asset management, there's a fairly new one on our radar. You can see it's had a good day, so but there's not enough chart information there to make decisions. Champion Iron on a weekly chart, that's got to be corporate news. Let me just go and have a quick look for you and see what we can find. Give me a second. Right, I'm just popping into have a look at Champion Iron. Iron ore stock's doing well today generally. So they've had their Q2 results, so obviously, and half year report. So obviously that's gone down really well with markets, which is why we're seeing this move here. This represents a high not seen since back here, uh, really at the start of the year. So that's a very technically significant move. The upside on this may be tempered a little bit. It could make its way up to around about $6 if this buy momentum continues, of course. And GYG, if you like your stocks with a Mexican flavor, then Mexican restaurant chain Guzman y Gomez is actually looking interesting at around about 26, just below 27, let's say 27. Um, Possible move up to around about 28 should we get some momentum in that. So there's not a lot that's screaming by me this morning. Um, I'm going to plant my flag in mineral resources as my chart of the day to keep an eye on. See where we finish towards the back end of the trading session and whether we hold this breach of this resistance. It certainly looks as though we may do. That's a very strong move in mineral resources. And let's put that into context. Let me just have a quick scan. Where's all my indicators? Oh, there we go. I'll just put an average true range on this just to see what the norm is. So normally it moves about $2 a day. That's its average true range. So this move today um, of around about $4.5, it's around about double ATR. So that does suggest that there is buy momentum present there. So yeah, that's my chart of the day for there, and I've already shown you NVIDIA. All of those tech stocks are looking really good. Let's just have a look at Tesla, which is just bimbling underneath this sort of 460 level. Didn't make any headway yesterday, and in extended hours trading are just the same. But that looks undoubtedly interesting and worth keeping on your radar in the US. But all of the uh, AMD has been our favourite for the week, really, and it continues to wind its way upwards after breaching this resistance at 240, record highs for this stock. But I would say Nvidia is probably got to be my chart of the day simply because the airplay it's getting. Let me just check when Nvidia reports. Actually, we'll do a full breakdown 19th of November, so I've got a little bit of time before Nvidia's earnings date. Always reports a little bit after the bell. Let's just check actually. Just give me a second. Just want to check out what's due tonight. I'm just a feeling that there is a couple of biggies. Yeah, I thought it was. So. we have got quite a number of stocks that are really important. We've got Apple reporting and Amazon reporting tonight. Those will both be after the bell. We've got Merck reporting, big tech company. Some of the biopharmaceuticals like Gilead reporting in the pharma space. We've got Merck, Cloudflare will be interesting as well. Watch MSTR as well. That could be quite interesting. But yeah, it's Apple and Amazon after the bell. So if you are holding a Mastercard as well, that's interesting. So if you are holding the Nasdaq futures, expect a movement after the equity market closes tonight. So that last hour that you see on the futures chart will be impacted significantly. So just be cautious about that time of day. Um, that will be very early morning for you guys on the East Coast, of course. So that will be what, 4:13. Actually, not that early, 7:30. Then have a look at the NDX futures and see if there's moves, or if you have got the Nasdaq futures open, just maybe see if you can set an alarm clock for a little bit earlier and potentially tighten stops up, etc. Because we will get a move on these two big players and the impact they're going to have on the NDX futures. Anyway, that should cover it all for now. I hope that's been useful, giving you some things to think about, of course, giving you some things to watch. Thank you very much for being part of this today. Um, thanks very much for you guys who have already clicked the like buttons. Take care, trade safe, uh, have a wonderful day, and we'll catch you very soon. On Monday, we'll just do a recap and um, obviously have our update on scores on the doors on US earnings. Um, thanks, you all. You guys take care. See you again very soon. Bye bye for now.